Welcome back to the 2016 Atlantic Classic. We are about to start what will be a really exciting final match here. We are live from Canoe Brook Country Club in Summit, New Jersey, on Paddle Tennis Television, on Facebook. I am Patty Hogan, and I am joined alongside in the booth today with Whit Harwood, and we have a special guest, Marco Grangiero.
Finals of the 2016 Atlantic Classic. To the right of the chair, in the deuce court, is Mick Araya and his partner, Dan Reagan. To the left of the chair, Jared Palmer and Drew Broderick. Today's match will be best to all sets.
Yeah, Patty, and as our umpire Scott just told us, we are about to watch Drew Broderick of Canoe Brook Country Club and Jared Palmer, who resides in California, whose family's in Stockholm, play against Dan Reagan and Mick Araya. Dan is out of Innis Arden, just got the director of Racket's job in Connecticut there, and Mick is out of Essex Fells, former protege of Drew Broderick's.
And speaking about all these great clubs in this area, Marco, I would love for you to talk about the memberships of your club who are so supportive of you traveling to compete at the highest level in the sport, and you know what that takes from your membership to let you be here with us.
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much for having me on air. It's a pleasure being here and commentating such a great finals today. Yes, the membership. Unfortunately, they don't get to interact with us on weekends that we're traveling and we're playing tournaments, and they're very, very accommodating and very understanding of that. So me, on behalf of all pros who play on the tour and have to give up their weekends, we thank you, members, for understanding and for being so supportive of us playing these amazing tournaments.
And the only way you become a top competitor in this sport is you've got to be out there against high-level competitors in tournaments.
Correct.
No one progresses through this sport without traveling for tournaments throughout the season.
Correct. I agree 100% with you on that. Yep.
Hey, Whit, can you tell us a little bit about how our two finalists reached the finals?
Yeah, of course. We have Mick and Dan on the top of your screen, and they just beat they beat Marco and John 7-5 in the third. And Marco, we're going to lean on you for all the inside information today about what really got Mick and Dan through to this place. And then we have Drew and Jared, who played against Juan Araya and Jeff Morneau, took them down 7-5, 6-love in the semis.
And so in the semifinal match, that unfortunately didn't work out as well as you would have liked, Marco. What really did that come down to? It looked like that match could have gone either way until the very last point of the match.
Right. Fortunately for them, they hung in there tight. We had opportunities, we had match points, and they played steady and smart enough to keep it tight with us and make it happen for themselves. Really, matches like that. 7-5 in the third, he comes down to 3-4 points, and it's a lack court, or it's a nick, or it's a missed drive opportunity, or a lob, or certain things like that are bound to happen when you're playing at that level and so tight and so close. So kudos to them. They played well. We tried our best. We did what we could to stop him from gaining the momentum, and congratulations to them.
Well, we thoroughly enjoyed watching that match when we picked up on it after the conclusion of our semifinal that we were live streaming. It was very entertaining. We love watching your play out of the screens. You have finesse. You're moving around the court. It's incredible. You've made a huge commitment to fitness the last 2 years in your off season. You come ready out of the, right out of the box, playing strong, and we're proud of your effort here.
Thank you.
Yeah, Marco, I know you were talking about yesterday how that was the first time that you and John have been on the same side of the court. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah, you guys seem to mesh seamlessly together. That was you guys made a great run.
Thank you. Yeah, it worked out well. He's a pleasure to play. He's obviously an amazing paddle player and tennis player, accomplished tennis player. So it was just an easy fit. We surrounded ourselves leading to the tournament with lots of good positive vibes, and I think he made up for playing wise. So we just kept our cool and stayed smart, playing really steady, and so yes, I agree with you. We matched really well. So.
Yeah, and you had a quarterfinal match last night against George Wilkinson and Max Lepavere. You took them down 1-3. What went well for you in that match? I mean, I think that was a result that might surprise a lot of people.
Against your former partner, George Wilkinson.
Correct. I mean, it's always tough to go against guys at that level and that they're tough. Anybody that, I mean, you know that, because if you watch Patterson a couple weekends ago, they fought through a lot of good matches, and they got to the finals, and they gave Duran Parsons a really hard time. So going into it was very nerve-wracking, very tough. They're a really good team, but John and I had a plan going into it. It seemed like we executed to the T perfectly, and it worked out. So.
Yeah, that was a great match to watch. And so, speaking of plans, Mick and Dan, what was your plan against them? What worked? What should we expect to see? Because I think for a lot of people, this could be the first time they're seeing them on the live stream.
Right. Mick and Dan, lefty-righty combination. It's always, if any ball goes short at the net, we got to explore the side wires. So we planned on doing that, and we executed that. But when the lobs got deep, we were going to figure it out who was going to be more accurate in driving. If we reset it, reset the overhead back to the middle, who was driving more accurately. We started with Mick because we knew he could be more in terms of, like, not as he could be accurate, but he could be missing more. And we started with that, and
Broderick and Palmer won the toss. They deferred. The team of Araya and Reagan chose to receive.
So we started with that, and they adapted well. They adapted. So they adapted well to our strategy, and they stuck to their guns, and we obviously weren't able to close it out. But
so what do you expect to see from them early against Drew and Jared?
I'd like to see patience. I'd like to see long points. If they want to win, that's how they have to do it. And if they try to rush, they try to play out of their speed of play, the match is going to be. I don't think the match is going to be not going to be a competitive match, but I hope so. I hope it is.
15 love.
15 all.
So as our umpire, Scott said, Drew's serving, and it's 15 all after a first fault and a miss.
30-15.
Marco, Mick's learned a lot of paddle. Drew's been a real positive influence for his progress in the sport. And I think that's the thing that's unique about platform tennis, how pros really mentor other players. And everyone really helps each other out here in the sport to get better. In tennis, there's no way that goes on. It's an amazing, shout out to the camaraderie of this sport.
Exactly. It's a much tighter community. And, yes, I have been mentored by so many high-level paddle players, and they do it because they want to see the sport to get better and to be more competitive. So 40-15, Drew serving.
There's that big forehand by Dan.
30.
Marco, what were you guys trying to avoid that? What was your where were you looking to get the ball on Dan's side? More to the side wires?
when we had the opportunity, yes. When the ball was short enough, we went to the side wires. Otherwise, reset it deep. If you wanted to drive that deeper shot, you're more than welcome to. We probably would make the volley back where you'd miss it, but certainly.
Seems like Drew and Jared are following you early, just trying to get to that side wire early.
Right.
Drew trying to put a lot of spin on that ball. Even confused Nick and Dan on one of those early points.
Yeah.
So, Marco, you've played Drew and Jared a lot over the course of the last few years. Where are Nick and Dan trying to generate the offense from you?
It is tough. It is tough because they're so good at the net, and they, again, you see Drew just cutting the ball. He's not really looking to end the point with those cutters. He's really looking for the next shot, or the next one to be
Advantage, Broderick.
to be a sort of a sequence of shots. If you can start with a good cutter and get a short lob in the next one, and maybe work the point out a little more that way. So he's making them play, and with Drew and Jared volleying how well they volley.
Terrific net exchange there.
Broderick and Palmer, they lead 1-0.
Perfect example right now. Basically, they're rock solid at the net, their volleys, and tough to exchange and win that point at the net against them.
Hey, Whit, would you give a shout out to our generous sponsors for today's event?
Absolutely. We have Colt Studio, Investors Bank, Bleakley Financial Group, the NJMPTA, led by Jimmy Earl, and Telluride Paddle Camp, 23K Studios, and Wilson.
And in addition to those sponsors, we have Drew's been able to raise some money, and this event has $10,000, we think, of prize money to be divvied up between all the teams, between the top 8 teams, I believe, or 12 teams.
He's giving some money to backdraw matches too, to make it so they can play.
Doria serving.
Love.
Sometimes you're a little disappointed when you end up in those backdraw matches, but have a little money on the line adds a little bit of incentive, along with national ranking points, to go toward your year-end national ranking.
Yep.
The way you improve in this game is you start out, you might get bumped early, but you play through those reprieve consolation matches, and pretty soon you're the guy in the main draw a little bit deeper.
Correct. And it's excellent played. Seriously, because you learn so much from it. And
especially the guys who travel in and come from parts of the country where they can't just call up 3 guys and get a game.
Correct.
3 nights of the week. A lot of guys who travel from different parts of the country, out of the tri-state area, out of the Chicago area, love coming to the tournaments just to get the opportunity to play against all the great teams.
A couple lobs missed long early, Marco. You think the fact that it's probably 65, 67 degrees out there is going to affect the pace of play?
Absolutely.
And then who's that going to favor?
Obviously missing. They say it's a sin if you missed a long lob, but it's. It's tricky. You don't want to give a short lob. At the same time, tendency when you have a tendency to go out.
40 love.
You have a tendency to go deep on your lobs because you're trying to go for too much and trying to get it over their heads, and it's not really the point of the lobs. It's just to get players off the net. So on a warmer day, you definitely want to.
40-15.
You want to aim your lob shorter, and who's going to favor? It's tough to tell. I guess only.
I've got the answer. Everything favors Palmer and Broderick.
I'd have to.
On a streak of winning 6 or 7 straight tournaments from 2 years ago at Nationals.
That's a great point. I never thought of it that way. So it's more, the percentage that they have over all the teams that they've played so far in the past couple of years. So. you just don't miss. Every point is a long battle. You have to stay with it.
That's Drew Broderick in the red t-shirt. The lefty hitting the overhead in the near court. His partner, black shirt, Jared Palmer. That was wild.
40-30.
That was wild Mick on that backhand. Mick is playing here with Dan Regan. Mick is the lefty in the red t-shirt. That's Araya and Regan.
Deuce.
Great buddies from college, Armstrong State.
Really?
Yep, played college tennis together.
Marco, how has this sport changed since we've had Jared Palmer join the ranks of the high-level players? I mean, one of the most celebrated doubles players in the history of the game.
Right.
2 Grand Slam wins.
Yep, 2001, Australian and Wimbledon with his partner, Don Johnson. I actually happen to know him as well. Great guy. Jared came in, I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong here. You might want to ask him. We started the same year, and I was eager to just get a good partner, and I obviously said to him, hey, you know, if you ever want to play a tournament, we'd never end up playing a tournament, but he's I feel like him coming into this what Federer, Djokovic, and Nadal did to the sport. They raised the level, especially
Advantage. Araya.
especially him teaming up with Drew. It's much tougher team, and so they raised the level of the sport by a lot. So people have to play better and make smarter decisions. So it certainly adds a lot of value to the sport. Having him playing this as serious as he is, he's committed. Araya is serving a deuce.
Well, on the heels of that, we had Eric Buderek play his first tournament at Patterson. Mark, I'm not sure if you got to see him play at all, but also another highly celebrated doubles player.
Yeah.
Marco, what's the best tip you could give a tennis pro coming over onto the paddle court?
Patience. I'm sure everyone watching this and everyone that knows the sport and have started playing, it's like if you want to be out there, if you want to have a chance to compete, you have to be really patient. Racket skills come handy, but if you don't, it's a chess. It's what it is.
Advantage. Araya.
It's the chess of racket sports. It's a placement shot. It's a placement sport. It's not. A little frustration coming out of Dan there. Can understand. It's every point is really tough to play against these guys, but just to hang tight, just like they did against us. You hang tight. You never know what can happen.
And this is only the second game of the match, and you can feel the intensity. These guys right out of the box, mentally and physically, ready as a team. I mean, they know they can't waste one opportunity against Broderick Palmer.
Correct.
Advantage. Araya.
Again, players that know the game, they understand that you don't have to play outside of your level. You don't have to play better because you're playing better players. If you stay.
Deuce.
Great two-hander there from Drew. You don't see him break that out all the time, but when he does, it's definitely a weapon.
All right. Does it well.
That ball was good. Ball was good. It was good.
In an umpired match, players can make a call. The umpire has the final say.
Broderick.
So we have our first break point here in this final match, the Atlantic Classic, hosted by Canubrook Country Club. What's the mindset of Regan and Araya here? I mean, what's a weakness with Broderick and Palmer? What's the game plan here?
It's hang tight. I mean, nobody seems to have given them put enough pressure on Broderick Palmer's side. So it's literally getting every ball back and placing the right shots and the right overheads and volleys, the right places. So you're not constantly under pressure. So you never know. And I'm
Game, Broderick, Palmer. They lead 2-0. First set.
It's only been
Drew, hold on, Jared. There's something on the floor here.
they only have played two games, and we've been here for what, close to 15 minutes or so,
Probably.
something around that. And it's very very tough. I mean, very tough. You have to be mentally tough and playing really really patient paddle to hang tight. And I'd love to see some teams put pressure on them and put them against the fence. When they started playing together, I think their only loss was to Sebastian Bredberg and Martin Bostrom at Sound Shore. Might have been 2 years ago. And unfortunately, there was no live streaming then,
Love 15.
at least at that tournament. And so we don't know. We can't really see what happened then.
Speaking of the live streaming, we had our live streaming marathon yesterday. We went from just about 10:30 to a little before 8. And that was live streamed on Facebook and YouTube, courtesy of Paddle Tennis Television. We're here live with you on Paddle Tennis TV today.
This is the 4th year of the Atlantic Classic. I believe Drew and Jared have won this event twice already. Win, is that correct?
Yeah, the last 2 years. The first year they actually won it as an
15.
unseeded pairing, and then last year they won in the finals. Marco, is that against you?
Yes. George and I played them, and they, again, really tough team. They didn't make a lot of errors.
So when you say teams need to pressure Broderick and Palmer a little bit, when they're at the net, what do you want them to go after them in the corners a little bit? Is that what you're implying?
Yeah, it's there's always a weakness. There's always a spot that you can head to that you
40-15.
that you can neutralize and keep him from putting pressure on you, basically driving. So if you can find those spots, it's always tough because they have pretty much every shot in the book. But if you can find those spots, and then if you're going to stay patient.
Game, Broderick, Palmer. They lead 3-0. First set.
They never know. They can break down. I mean, we got to see that. We haven't seen it. And if you, it's again a lot of patience and picking the right spots in the court to keep him from putting pressure or being aggressive. So.
I'd like to take this opportunity just to give one more time a nice shout out to the members of Canoe Country Club who volunteered tremendous amount of hours out here. They've worked for about 6 months to pull this tournament together. There's lots of details that go into pulling off a successful event. Congrats to our #1 seed and tournament chair, Drew Broderick, and the supportive membership here at Canoe Country Club for being totally appreciative of Drew's efforts. Dan Regan serving.
Love 15. All.
So Patty, Regan, Araya, down a break early here in the first set. What's the mindset? What's the mentality? How do they get back in this?
I think they're not going to get it all back at once, You know, the old cliche, point at a time, game at a time. I mean, they've just got to start building a game plan. They had a let cord on one shot. You know, when things go your way, sometimes it seems like the other team gets those let cords occasionally. But, I mean, they're right here. They've proved that they can play 3-set matches. They can play from behind.
30-15.
And they're going to battle. And both these guys are familiar with Drew and Jared's game, particularly with Drew's, I think. And so they feel really confident out here on the big stage. I think they've got a huge amount of fight in them. It's just another lefty-righty team, it seems like. Every match we've been live streaming this weekend. Lots of lefty-righty combinations. Marco, the advantages of a lefty-righty combo team, can you share that with us?
That's what I said to John. I'm like, finally, I don't have to deal with the sun, the serving issues in the sun. So that's one right off the bat. It's also not only on the service, but also this morning.
40-15.
This morning, the sun was right in our face on one side, and sort of like a little bit to either towards me or towards John, depending on as he got later. It was harder for me to hit the overhead, so then you take more. So if there's two righties or two lefties, you don't have that option. And the setup in the backcourt as well. It's like there's a lot more. It's just different looks you're giving instead of having to. You have two forehands in the middle. There's a lot of open space there to create offense. So
I think that's a change in the mindset in the sport in the last 10 years. You know, it used to be that you had to get another righty, and righties always looked and almost avoided playing with some lefties. Maybe there weren't that many of them out there who are capable of playing at this high level. But it does seem like the advantages far outweigh any disadvantage.
Good point. And that's what it takes.
Game, Araya, Reagan. Roderick Palmer lead, 3-1.
So Araya, Reagan on the board there, 3-1. You know, they also played Drew and Jared last year. Took them to 3 sets actually in Philadelphia.
Love 15.
One of the closer matches that Drew and Jared played all year. Why do you think that they, Marco? Why are they such a good matchup with Drew and Jared potentially?
I'm sorry. Who are you talking about?
30.
Dan and Mick. What makes them a potentially good matchup? What could go in their favor here as they look to get back in at 3-1?
They are playing. That was a perfect example of that one game that they just won. They're playing more patient. They're waiting for the right balls to be aggressive and so they're staying patient enough to win that. See how Drew is just working them around in the backcourt, and they're just staying with it. The advantage is there's a lefty-righty. There's a lot of space in the middle for them to be aggressive, and both Dan Reagan and Mick Araya there. They got a lot of
15-30.
They're tall guys. They're athletic, so they take 1 or 2 steps, and they're there for whichever drive comes, whichever short ball comes, so they can drive. So it's they gotta stay patient at the same poised. You can't just lob all day. They gotta try and make their drives and stay aggressive. So hard to say that there's an advantage.
15-40.
It's certainly not a disadvantage anymore.
Right.
Game, Araya, Reagan. Roderick and Palmer lead, 3-2, first set.
So an early break on Drew there.
That's a statement.
And for club level players, I think it's so fun to watch a lefty and a righty who are experienced and play at this level, and the effortlessness with which they move and switch positions. It's no big deal. It seems like when players come out on a club level, it seems like it's such a big deal as a lefty-righty, where you simply know what the goal is. You've got to get your forehand overheads in the middle. You know, you make a switch. Both of you are thinking about it as soon as before the point is served. And it's, you know, I love to watch the gliding back and forth of the switching of positions.
Right. And every team has a different way of going about it, and it's so interesting to see. I played 3 years with Guga Gonçalves, currently the pro at Chevy Chase.
Didn't go out.
Guga just started a great new job down there.
Yep, yeah, and he played 3 years with him.
Gotta
So
be there. That's it.
switching was a fun thing for me to do. By the way, I learned from him. He was my mentor. He got me involved in this sport, and but again, the lefty-righty combination was fun. Just experiencing that for 3 years.
And he's a great guy. He is stepping up to the plate big time for the PPTA, our teaching organization, and for the APTA with juniors. And I think he's going to really help with the growth of junior paddle down south.
Absolutely, he will. He's a program and builder.
Chevy Chase is so lucky to have a guy like him as the pro.
Love
Absolutely.
15.
So Marco Araya, Regan, get that break back. What's their mindset here? What's helping them get back in this match?
They just won 2 games in a row. You know, they're wow. It's a drive.
Love 30.
Stick to their guns and continue to play patient the way they did in the past 2 games. I mean, it's a huge break. Breaking Broderick's serve. So, again, picking the right spots in the court, not hitting anything down, not giving them any opportunity to drive.
Looks like they're playing Jared's backhand a lot there, and saw Jared slide over a little bit. Definitely just trying to keep it away from Jared's forehand, right?
Right. If you're picking on someone, if you were to choose between Drew and Jared to pick on, you have to pick on Jared. Drew's never going to miss a ball, and obviously Jared doesn't miss a lot either. But you know, if you could pick between one and the other, that would be my pick, and move him around. I mean, let him. He's athletic. He's obviously got the racket skills, but he should be the one there who will miss more.
It's a great lob by Araya there. Oh, man. Incredible shot by Mick.
15-30. Ah! 15-40.
Well, Marco, I'm really thrilled for your success here in this tournament. I know you would have liked to have been playing out here in the finals, but you're gracious to come in here in the booth and give us some of your insights. We value them. And good luck the rest of the season. We'll see you out there at Charities in a week. I'll hand over your mic to Scott Estes.
Patty, thank you so much. Whit, thank you so much. It was a pleasure commentating with you guys a little bit, and have fun today. Scott, all you. Thank you.
Thanks, Marco. See you soon.
See you soon.
So, Whit, what would you say? Hey, Whit, what would you say is the average number of times every single point so far early in this match has gone over the net? What do you think an average exchange is? 25, 30 shots?
Yeah, maybe even longer. I mean, we've had some extended rallies here, particularly as this match has gone on. Maybe some early errors from Araya Regan as Dan hits an overhead long.
Broderick, Palmer. They lead 4-2. First set.
Speaking about another lefty-righty combination, particularly a young lefty I have had the luck of watching a lot, is Scott Estes Jr. So, Pod, you want to talk a little bit about Scott? Was a successful APTA junior player, came through the ranks, national champion in our sport, lives out in Ohio now. We'll be seeing him on the tour this season.
Yes, we will. Scott's enjoyed paddle for many years. It was great seeing his success as a junior, then moving up playing nationally. This year, he's going to be playing in Chicago with Nathan Lefebvre and coming back out here for the Sound Shore event week before Thanksgiving. So we look forward to seeing him play. After watching these players here, I know he's got his work cut out for him.
And your daughter Jill, good friend of mine, who's the pro out of Mendham. She's doing a great job out there.
Jill loves paddle, president for the women for the Region 1 President's Cup group. Had success, the team winning last year. She's enjoying all of her time on the paddle courts as well.
So we're here first point 4-2. Patty, what are Drew and Jared settling into? It seems like they want the longer exchanges.
I think
How do you think?
I think they understand the explosiveness that Araya has. So they're really, they're never going to give him a nice ball to hit. I kind of often call it like the ball of life. And some people will bait their opponents into it. I don't see Drew and Jared. They're not going to give him anything. The deeper they can keep Araya pinned against that baseline.
And then as you talk about discipline.
15.
So the deeper they can keep him pinned, it takes away his offensive capabilities. And if he does drive from that deep in the court and in the green, it gives them time to be in a little better position at the net. Sorry, what were you saying?
I was saying, as you talk about discipline, Drew misses that overhead and
Exactly.
cries out 0 for 3. That's
Well, that's an uncanny ability we have as announcers to
just
call
jinx
out
him,
the
right?
superlatives and then the very next shot. I think Drew looks like he's still working out the kinks on that shot today.
It's a great shot, though. It's a great shot. It's an ending shot. He's going to try it, and he's going to make it at some point.
We had John Lubau on earlier talking about how hard it is to execute that shot, particularly as the set goes on and
30 all.
ball begins to get a little bit more bare.
It loses its flocking, so it definitely inhibits it. They can't put as much spin on the ball as they could earlier in the set on some of these overheads.
It's not easy. These paddles, just some foam with a little graphite on them. There's no strings here.
Patty, there's been some really great
40, 30.
exchanges at net today. Do you think that favors Drew and Jared? They're so steady. Their hands are just so solid.
Again, in any of these situations, I see Jared Palmer, former number 1, 2-time Grand Slam champ. Any quick exchange, I always feel that if Palmer's on my side, that's who it favors. Not taking anything away from Drew or any of these other guys, but Palmer is just exceptional.
Great overhead. I think the only volleys I've seen Jared miss are balls that are going out.
It's a great forehand by Mick, and then Mick hits the Nick to win the point.
Mick just hit a couple of well-measured drives, not to try to win the point, just to make the guys volley. Wow,
Advantage, Regan.
It's a lively ball. It's easy to volley it long.
Dan found a nice spot right through the middle. That's the only disadvantage of a lefty-righty. Sometimes you get a little bit of an awkward spot there in the middle. Wow, that was a beautiful low roller that Mick hit, and Palmer just volleyed back. This is the overhead of Drew, trying to get that ball deep in that deuce score corner.
Trying to put as much spin on it as he can.
I've really not seen Regan play before this weekend, and I think he's outstanding. He's really stepping up to the plate, getting stronger and stronger as this tournament goes on.
Trying to become more consistent.
This is the 5th deuce. Oh no, I just got a wrong hand signal. I think it's the 4th deuce.
Okay. Jared continually trying to go for the corner. If Regan moves up the wire, Jared hits it harder up the side wire, but Mick then covers for Regan.
I mean, it seems like Araya is getting his fill of shots here. I mean, maybe more shots than they're throwing to Dan Regan. What do you think about when you've had the opportunity to watch the whole match here? Scott just joined us. Doesn't seem like it's kind of equal opportunity where I think Mick's been on fire all weekend and teams have been avoiding him a little bit.
Yeah, well, it looked like they started to play Dan early, and he's just gotten everything back. Then they've hit some shots that Mick has had a hard time generating a lot of offense from.
So another break point. They broke Broderick earlier in the set.
That's great overhead. Mick can't do a whole lot off of that. Takes his forehand out of play. Just long.
That's 3 long.
Yes, always correct.
Umpire confirms, and Araya
Regan.
Break right back.
Broderick and Palmer lead, 4-3. First set.
So I saw some controlled drives and Jared making 3 long volleys just over the baseline, but with the hot weather, that ball jumps off the paddle, and sometimes it's tough to keep it in play. So a nice controlled drive just forces a volley to be hit within the court, and we saw him miss 3. So that was the advantage for the Araya Regan team.
So I think the strong start here against Broderick Palmer was key for these guys, and they had to keep it close. They didn't want to let these obvious front runners who know how to close out and win matches. They've done a great job here, and I don't think they could have asked for a better first 7 games.
I agree.
Love.
Ball just a little lively.
Big cut from Mick. Doesn't maybe do the right thing that he wanted it to, Patty. It hung up a little bit.
Sometimes it's not a bad idea to give up the net, play from the baseline.
We've seen that a lot all weekend long. It seems to be the preferred play when you know someone's got the ball of life and is about to hit a laser drive. We've just found out the quarterfinal reprieve match going on court 4 is in a 3rd set tiebreaker. Lubau and DeRose are playing Wilkinson and Lepre, and that ball was out. Did you see that, Scott?
I did not. Just didn't catch that last point.
Jared rips an overhead right at Regan,
15
and
all.
first point goes to Broderick Palmer.
We've
Sorry,
got
second
Scott
point.
Rosenbaum up in the chair. He's going to call out the score for us. We'll try to let him get his score in before we add another comment. You know, we're just so eager to explain what's going on here. We sometimes go out of order. Just love watching how smooth Jared is with every shot he hits out here.
Rarely out of position. Been about 20 balls hit down the middle to their backhands. Just trying to neutralize any driving opportunities.
I think, Scott, some players in club level think they have to try to hit everything deep in the corners, and it's almost impossible to do that. And you can see top players in the game are choosing to hit the middle deep because it's really producing a neutral shot.
That was the first ball that
30-15.
That was the first ball that actually was directed to the corner after about 40 hits down the middle.
And sometimes that's what it takes. You really don't know what the combination of shots is going to be. But you don't want to create an offensive opportunity like that.
Yes.
Palmer responded, beautiful ball through the middle. These guys let it go through again, and now they're back up.
Here we're going back down the middle.
So the sport does repeat itself. Oftentimes in these matches you'll see, you know, a point we're watching now looks just like about 40 other points that we've seen. That takes, you know, an intense amount of mental toughness to have a willingness to do that. That's the patience Marco mentioned earlier.
Takes a ton of patience, ton of focus. There it was again.
40-15.
And it seems like almost the only way you can win a point is if you can hit a cut drop shot, or you can get a ball that hits the nick and flies out and
Comes out at an odd angle, just like that one.
And
Caught through.
95% of nicks get covered by the top players. They always have a trailer on the play.
Yeah. But from a strategy play, that looks like a great move for Araya and Regan to keep the ball down the middle until they get a chance to put it toward the corner.
Patty, are you maybe surprised at the level of patience that we're seeing here from Araya Regan? Marco alluded to the fact that they played pretty quickly.
Game, Araya Regan. 4 games all. First set.
Sorry, Whit, can you ask that question again?
Yeah, sure. When we had Marco on, he alluded to the fact that Regan and Araya played pretty quickly in their last match and really tried to generate some offense. And here,
The patience they're showing is really outstanding. You know, I think teams get better as you go through a tournament. There's less pressure. You've made it to the finals now. You can bring it to the table. You don't hold anything back, and you seem to have the ability to dig into another reserve of mental and physical toughness.
Scott, do you think it's maybe helpful for Araya and Regan that they've played Broderick Palmer tough before? 3-setter last year in Philadelphia.
Certainly. It gives you a lot of opportunity. You know that you've been close to them before. No question it helps.
15 all.
Huge forehand there from Regan.
Yep. Looked like Palmer made a move. A little confusion there.
Wow.
And a little luck right there.
30-15.
So
As
this
you
is
said-
huge. 4-all, first set.
As you said, Patty, in those close quarters, your money's on Jared to make a good volley.
40-15.
And I loved right there, big return of serve. And you saw what Jared did. Best volleyer in the country. Put his second hand on the paddle and just defended that. Was able to handle all the pace because he braced his paddle with his second hand.
Same thing right there.
Incredible get by Mick there on the forehand. We talked earlier about a lot about his athleticism. I think, Patty, that we're seeing that athleticism in fits and spurts, but he's also willing to dig in and play these points.
Now you can see Drew and Jared going more toward the corners, but they are facing a lefty-righty, and the forehands are down the middle, so
Game. Broderick and Palmer. They lead 5-4. First set.
so you would see that strategy that Palmer and Broderick moving the ball toward the corners, toward the side wires, and Ardoya and Regan moving the ball down the middle.
Okay, Whit, can we go to our sponsor list one more time?
Absolutely. We have Colt Studio, Investors Bank, Bleakley Financial Group, Peerless Beverages, Harrow, the NJMPTA led by Jimmy Irwin, Telluride Paddle Camp, 23K Studios, and Wilson, as well as a shout out to Paddle Tennis Television.
Live on Facebook.
So Patty, 5-4 here. Ardoya Regan trying to stay in the first set, but
So
they have to have proven something to themselves in this first set, right? They've grinded in a way that
they know
you know-
they can hang. They're here.
absolutely.
But this is where I look for Palmer, Broderick. Every time they have this opportunity, they seem to rise to this occasion.
Just a terrific serve.
15 love.
Maybe a little lucky. But that's great. They needed that.
There's that big two-hander before by Drew, and Mick is just closing really well on top of the net. Sends Jared back to the backcourt for a dig.
Well, the offense coming out of Palmer and Broderick down the middle is not as powerful as when he moves around to hit a forehand.
30 love.
Well, and that's why there's been a disproportionate amount of overheads from these guys. Hit down the middle, Palmer, Broderick, all throughout this match, Scott. Just an incredible dig out of
Great.
Palmer from the deuce court there. Wow.
40 love.
And you see more and more guys who are able to execute that cut,
That
overhead drop shot
cut drop.
winner.
Great way to win a point.
Maybe
40-15.
maybe a 40 love serve there out of Mick. Going for broke a little bit.
It's taking a little more time. Smart decision here. Phenomenal
Incredible
serve
serve.
into that deuce corner.
Well,
Game.
there it is.
Ardoya Regan. 5 all.
And Ardoya
First set.
holds to take it to 5-all. Jared's serve. Patty, what do you think Drew and Jared are talking about right here? What's the strategy to stay on serve and put them in good shape for the
I
set?
just think Palmer said to Drew that he really likes this combination of socks and sneakers here. I mean, at this point, they're just going to talk to each other. You know, they don't have much to say. They've got a lot of experience in this situation. Maybe they say, why don't you try serving the guy here? Let's go after this guy in this point. It's kind of a
Love 15.
weird missed overhead there.
Yeah, went for the corner and missed the sideline.
Maybe some miscommunication.
15 all.
And I think that it's sometimes between partners when you get in these really intense situations, it is kind of fun to loosen your partner up a little bit if need be. Keeps them loose. There's that two-handed backhand volley I love.
Mm. 30-15.
A little unlucky when the ball hits the seam. These screens are attached. There's a wire that's wound between the screens, and sometimes when the ball hits, it goes off in the opposite direction. Phenomenal deep
That was
serve.
definitely a little bad luck for Reagan. Pass.
You know, that was
40-15.
just a little reckless right there. Dan didn't need to come that big. That was a huge point.
But you know, Patty, it feels like Drew and Jared haven't hit him a ton of forehands that he can really tee off on. Maybe he was a little antsy there.
Well, regardless, you've got to appreciate what the score is and where you are in this match. How hard you've worked to get here.
Game, Broderick and Palmer. They lead 6-5. First set.
And against the team that's, you know, you're the underdog in this situation, you don't get many of those moments. And it's hard to recognize them when you haven't been there and you don't have that much experience in that situation late in a match, late in a final as a team. You know, you don't have to try to win the points. You have to let the point play out a little bit and then look for your opportunity. It rarely pays off to just go Mach 90 early in a point here because these guys are such good volleyers.
I love to see Jared at that point in the match not holding back on his serve. I think he actually put more on his serve, served a terrific game, kept Reagan and Araya from hitting strong returns. So I think part of that victory was on his serve.
Incredible volley by Araya there.
Love 15.
Let's get back down to hitting down that middle.
Scott, you watched these guys in the semis for a while. What set them apart from Marco and John Hughes?
That was a really close match. I actually think it came down to serving.
Mm-hmm.
Was a big part of that match, but I mean it was a breaker in the third set, so it didn't get any closer than that. It was 7-5, I guess, in the third set, but it was a very close match. But I do think serving was the key.
15 all.
It's a beautiful overhead, caught the nick, shot out. That was a huge point.
With
for
such talented players returning, your serve has to be effective.
That's right. It was 6-2 love for Grangero Hughes. Was there anything that noticeably changed in the pace? Did Araya Reagan just stop missing? What was really effective for them?
Their consistency, they tightened up, did not give
30-15.
not give unconventional easy errors. They forced the points to go longer, forced more errors from Grangero and Hughes.
This is Dan Regan serving. This is the finals, 2016 Atlantic Classic. with great hands there by Regan.
What a dig by Araya in the corner.
Oh, the crowd loved it. Oh, that was incredible. This is a highlight film in 1 point.
Oh!
all.
So
Fantastic.
you see Mick taking a little break there. He put it all out there. He got himself in position to retrieve a couple of shots there.
Expended quite
Uncanny.
a bit of energy.
He did.
And this is their second match of the day. 3-setter in the first one, and is not cool out either.
30-40.
So we have a set point here all of a sudden. Turned so quickly.
I'm looking for Drew to take a swing at this.
Measured swing.
I'm thinking
He's
is.
never making an error on this shot.
Well, he hit a great return. It was a terrific volley to keep that in play.
Araya, Regan, Patty probably going to be more measured here. Stay in this point.
Well, they've got no choice now, Whit. I don't think they're going to try anything different at this point. They'd be crazy to do that. I mean, they've had a tremendous amount of success with the middle ball here. You know, people think, well, wouldn't you hit a shot to surprise them? Yeah, but you might surprise yourself and miss.
Great close by Araya.
Caught Drew a little bit out, snuck that ball behind him.
And Araya, Regan stave off the first set point. Just a full swing from Jared there. Scott, I'm not sure that's a shot that a whole lot of club players can pull off.
That's a tough one. That's a tough one. Here you see the overheading going into the side screens and toward the corners. Again, toward the backhands of Araya and Regan, trying to make it tough for them to dig it out with the backhands.
Smart for Dan to just let that ball go by, save his energy.
Yeah, great communication. It really seems like they've been on the same page all day. Can't get to this point unless you are, right, Scott?
That's for sure. It's a team sport. That's great. Neither team is really deviating from their strategy.
What a great get. Araya got so low for that double screen. He did it again.
Oh,
Tough.
Advantage, Broderick.
Second set point opportunity here for Palmer Broderick.
and Patty, you saw Drew and Jared take pace off the ball there as they went to the corner. Can you talk a little bit about how that could, maybe grind down Mick and Dan?
Talk about that in a little bit, Whit. That's a great point. I need a little more time to talk about that.
Fair enough.
Deuce.
Araya, Regan stave off a second set point.
And I love how measured their shots were there. They didn't overhit, and they got Jared a little bit out in front on a volley.
Definitely. Took
Hard
some
to
pace.
make Palmer.
Took some pace off the ball.
Yep, got him a little bit out in front on that. It's an amazing get from Palmer right there. We say amazing gets all day because these guys are some of the greatest athletes
think they
out
want
here playing the sport.
great lob.
There's no impossible shot or get for these guys.
And we'll see Palmer and Broderick working the ball toward the corners. And then
Advantage, Broderick.
there's another one.
Third set point, Regan serving. What a volley.
Great close by Regan there.
Mick goes for the slash there at set point. Patty gives up the net. You think they maybe went for a little too much?
Not sure I would have pulled that shot out right there and just kind of hang it out. He didn't really hit it with conviction. So that's
And there's the first set.
Okay.
So that's-
First set, Broderick and Palmer.
And I think, you know, you get in that situation and maybe they'd hit just enough overheads and he thought he'd throw that shot in just to see if something could happen. But I just think, as you can see how that played out, it was just the opening for Broderick Palmer. And they just closed out that first set 7-5. I think that, you know, there's a lot of times when you play matches and sets, you wish you could take back a shot or two. I have a feeling Araya wishes he hadn't hit that shot there to give them that opportunity. Once again, I'd like to thank the membership and our host club here at Canoe Brook Country Club. They've done a beautiful job. I'm not sure you can appreciate all the spectators who are out here inside the paddle hut. And Canoe Brook set up some seating out on the neighboring courts out here. And 65 degrees might not be ideal for platform tennis players. It might be a little warm, but it's ideal for the spectators here. They're enjoying. They've got some cocktails over there, and they're loving all of this action. It looks like we're going to be taking a quick break here, Whit, from the action. Whit, once again, can you just take us through the draw quickly from the quarters on and just tell us how each team reached the finals?
Absolutely, Patty. Last night in the quarters, Araya Regan beat Stulak Jonassen in straight sets, and then Araya Regan beat Grangiero Hughes in the semis this morning in a epic three-set match. They won 7-5 in the third, as we talked about. And then they find themselves here today. And for Drew and Jared, they took down Bonfigli.
Broderick and Palmer.
For Broderick and Palmer, they took down Bonfigli, Fair, and Cranwitter in the quarters, and then they took down Morneau and Araya this morning. And here we are in the finals. They just took the first set, 7-5, and really exciting first set.
I'd like to thank Jimmy White. He's the chairman of the paddle program over here at Canoe Brook. He does a great job. He celebrates, bringing all these top-level players here. He loves that. He loves that Canoe Brook can be a gathering spot for some of the top players in the country, and they've invited, any neighboring fans of platform tennis from the area to come out and enjoy the action here. And it hasn't disappointed. It's really high-level play most of the day yesterday during our paddle marathon, and then here today it's really been beautiful shots, really fun to watch. Glad we have a front row seat up here in the paddle hut at Canoe Brook. Scott, so you're coaching these guys, Araya and Regan. What might you say to them for the second set? I mean, it's so close. The margin here, I don't know what the total number of points won by each team, what the difference is, but what would you say?
Well, again, I think their strategy of keeping the ball down the middle which is going to drag the points out to a very lengthy number of shots, is still their best bargain. Waiting till they have an opportunity to go to the corner. I don't think any fast plays, whether they're going to try to roll a ball over and blitz and try to make some volleys, are going to work. We know that Palmer and Broderick volley extremely well. I think that would be playing into their hands. So unfortunately, I think they have to really play a slow down game and hope to make some errors. I mean, we do know that paddle is a game of errors. Even here at the highest level, there's more errors made than there are winners hit. So you have to give your opponent a chance to make an error. I think if they feed balls to the side wires with Palmer and Broderick, it's not going to work well. So I think they've got to keep the ball going down the middle.
And so maybe they would rather be on the baseline. I mean,
no
than
question
hitting
about it.
so many overheads.
Sometimes it's better in a 50-50 thing.
So we've got Drew Broderick leading off the second set.
Well,
15 love.
a little bit of miscommunication there.
Well, it was a wonderful lob that was hit. It was hit to the exact spot that caused tremendous amount of confusion. And when people say what makes a great lobber,
Yeah.
30 love.
I think a great lobber places some of those shots. And Drew, that's the part of the game that's sneaky good. You don't really realize it, but he just had a routine shot, put it right there where the guys couldn't cover the next ball.
40.
No question there.
Or cause them to overreact to that moment.
Yeah, he gave them a chance to make an error.
That was an incredible get back there by Broderick. Regan hit a phenomenal forehand, laser forehand.
Just
Game, Broderick and Palmer. They lead 1-0 second set.
there was a case where Broderick and Palmer really pinpointed spots for their shots. We had the lob, we had a serve into the nick, we had Palmer down the line making 3 really tough plays.
Irdora's serving, second game of the second set.
So let's see if they can keep their focus.
15 love.
He did have a good chance to drive a low ball toward the corner and made a good shot. We've seen Araya able to execute that cut drop shot. Terrific, terrific shot. Great way to end the point.
Love.
Very quick game here. Drew just bounced
Yeah.
that ball, deliberately slowing this down here.
Game, Araya Regan, 1 all.
Jared Palmer serving.
Love, 15.
Looks like a little bit of a loose start here for Palmer Broderick. A little surprised that they're starting the second set like this. And here Dorian and Regan just know they're going to battle. I mean, you never know. The greatest team on the planet still can screw up.
You're seeing that they've made a few mistakes here early. However, they usually do tighten up.
15 all.
A little surprised. I think earlier in the match, Araya might have been in a position to cover that. Really, that's the job of the guy who's the trailer on the play, to cover that nick.
Well, Patty, I think you heard Regan yell help there, too. He was definitely aware that that ball was right at the nick.
And I've noticed with Broderick Palmer, anytime a ball's headed right at the nick or the crease, they'll call it out for each other ahead of time just to make sure their partner's on the ball and ready to cover for them. Wow, he buried that shot.
30-15.
Some quicker points here, Scott. What would you attribute that to? Maybe
I believe they're hitting their spots well. That's a key. I mean, people are really making shots to try to
30 all.
make an effect, and they're hitting them. They're making very good shots.
three forehands in a row there, Patty.
40-30.
And I think that's where, right now in this match, you know, you hit what's called maybe probing drives where you make the guy volley. You're not going to beat Palmer and Broderick with pace at that point. If they place the ball in a seam between the two players.
Great move by Regan.
Deuce.
It's much more about where you place your drives, not that you add pace particularly in that situation.
Big swing by
Advantage,
Araya.
Palmer.
Just don't want to give away a quick point like that.
Well, Araya and Regan can't afford to give those away.
Deuce.
Broderick and Palmer have given a few away, but they're winning the match. Sometimes I think in the final you get to that beginning of the second set and there might be a little bit loss of energy. You know, they all worked so hard in that first set. And I think sometimes you get a little bit of some little loose errors to start out, and then they'll kind of get a second win.
Advantage, Regan.
Scott, maybe a bit of an
Okay.
emotional letdown at the beginning of the second set with some quicker points? Or
Yep, I call it sometimes a little mid-match lapse. You know, you take that breather, you've got that first victory, you let down a little bit, your opponents dig in a little more, and all of a sudden there's a little turnaround.
And we see Araya's gotten a couple of hits here, and I don't think Drew's going to be thrilled with some of the shot selection on their overheads.
I totally agree. They went away from the side wire and put balls out in the middle of the court. And you can bet without a doubt that Araya is going to take a swing.
And Araya, can run hot. I haven't seen him run really cold this weekend, but he goes hot and hotter. You don't want to ignite him.
Game, Araya, Regan. They lead 2-1, second set.
So very effective by moving down the middle. Sometimes forces the team to get a little impatient. There, Palmer decides he's going to hit a backhand from behind the baseline, goes into the net, and they lose the game. So I continue to say that Araya and Regan need to keep that ball down the middle. It's their best bet.
Looking forward to next week, Chicago Charities Tournament. I'll be headed out there, and it's the next stop on the tour for these players. And I think that I love in the early going here some of these new team combinations. I think it's going to make for a real exciting season ahead.
That should be quite a draw. They normally get
Probably the second strongest draw in the country outside
big,
of nationals.
Big group. There'll be a lot of play. Question will be, what will the weather be like?
This is Dan Regan serving, up 2-1, second set.
15-love.
Broderick Palmer won the first set 7-5.
Drew moving in the middle to try to put a little offense there when these balls come down the middle. He took a two-handed backhand. Just not as powerful as his forehand.
Well, Scott, it seems like they're Araya and Reagan are well prepared for those drives when they come. They're in position, and it seems
You're
like
right.
it seems like they've done a really good job of not really being out of position.
Well, a drive coming out of the middle of the court, there's not much angle to work with. This is small court. You have, short distance when you're going wide to get over the net and keep it in play.
15 all.
Araya and Reagan are 0 for 2 when Mick pulls out that shot. Pulled it out on set point earlier.
He had one in the first game, Patty.
So he's up to 3?
He's 1 for 3.
Oh, no, I'm meaning when he's lost the point as a result of just kind of laying it in the middle and giving up the net. I think if he's going to hit the winner, he's got to accelerate as he hits through the ball. He can't lay off it. He just didn't generate enough pace. The ball just sits up and bounces way too high in the middle of the court. That's a good shot by Mick there. Just hit it with not super hard in case it popped out.
Might catch the nick is right. But they're still down the middle, down the middle, down the middle. Wait for your opportunity. They're not getting hurt by any shots. And they're ready to make that volley.
I think a lot of players think that all the top players go after it on every overhead when the reality of it is you can see that they have to lay off a majority of the overheads. They probably can hit real attack overheads maybe 20 or 10% of the time. It's not as much as most people think. Because the players are such good athletes, can dig any ball out of the screen. So the greater the pace, almost the greater the risk you have of them returning the shot with an offensive opportunity.
I totally agree.
Kind of happy to see the sun out, Scott. We were getting a prediction for some rain. That's why we moved the finals up a little bit earlier here.
Well, it looks like we're still in for warm weather for the remainder
no rain,
of this match.
I think we'll get through the no rain. Patterson, unfortunately, in the first Grand Prix of the year, had a lot of rain.
$15.30.
Just
So
a
there was a
phenomenal-
case of Araya taking a chance, going wide toward the nick, doesn't get it right in there. Palmer makes an offensive shot. That's why I say they need to keep that ball down the middle. They're just
That's a great
gotta
point.
be
It's
focused.
such a fine line, Scott. I mean, when I learned to play the sport, people said, look at the boards. Count how many boards are over there. You've got to learn to hit spots on the court. And people think, how do you do that? Well, the better you get, the more experience you get. You hit boards, and you're one board off, and it's an offensive shot.
It takes a lot of discipline, a lot of focus to be consistent and stay with your plan, because as the points go on and on, you just feel like you need to do a little more. And I feel that Mick, there's again,
15.40.
there's another example of trying to do too much with the ball, trying to change the pace, and then it got hurt from that shot.
Game, Broderick and Palmer. 2 games all, second set.
And that's the fine line. And shot selection is what it comes down to out here. It's having the composure, discipline, and shot selection that low risk.
Absolutely. As an instructor, I always want the correct shot selection being made. If you miss it, it's okay. We can work on the execution of the shot. But if you're making the wrong choices, that's always a problem.
15 love.
And all of a sudden, this match feels different. I don't know if we're starting to get some cramping out of here. Araya looks like he's kind of, I don't know if he's cramping. It's warm enough, certainly. It's a possibility. But they've got to really reel it in here and keep this thing close
Well, I did
right now.
Just a little on it. Ball was lively.
15 all.
That was a gift.
I did
Reagan and Araya needed that point.
I did notice that in the semifinal match when Araya and Regan started
30,
to lose,
15.
the body language was very weak.
Yep,
So
and
he
I just think maybe Ardoya's hit a wall here. And it may be physically, and it may be mentally, or the combination. He just kind of slapped that return to serve, had no chance to get in play. So he's got to reel it in right now for them to keep this match competitive.
Absolutely.
Because this is what Palmer and Broderick have just been waiting for. They know
Look at that.
40, 15.
that these guys can be a little bit hot and cold, and they've been hot the whole tournament, and all of a sudden it's cooling off here.
Yeah, and they're deflecting from a game plan if they had one, or what the game plan we think they should be using.
Game, Broderick and Palmer. They lead 3 games to 2, second set. 1 set to love.
Those were incredible couple games by Broderick and Palmer, and they really looked like they took control. It almost felt like the momentum shift that we saw when they played Araya Morneau this morning. It was 5-3 in the first set, and then Broderick and Palmer then won the next 10 games.
And I can't help but think that physically you see this match as it wears on is taking its toll a little bit more on Regan and Araya. You know, they've worked so hard, I think, to get here. They've come through the draw. They were, lower place. They weren't a high-seeded team. So they've worked to be competitive in every single match. And so maybe that's taking its toll here on this really warm Sunday. I mean, what did you say before this morning? Broderick and Palmer had lost 4 games?
They lost 4 games coming into the semifinals.
15 love.
Right. So they're so much fresher here. And I just think it's a smart play for these guys to take their time here. They've got to slow down the train here. We've gone from 2-1 to being down 2-3.
Oh,
15 all.
A little unlucky there.
30, 15.
And Patty, as John Lubau alluded to earlier this morning when he was with us, Drew and Jared don't get to play a lot, so probably the more they get to play with one another, you can see them getting stronger over the course of the tournament.
All.
Exactly. That last serve from Araya landed halfway in the service box, and Drew was able to get that ball down low. Palmer made the move in. And again, I think that's a little fatigue here.
and it puts a lot of pressure on them. I mentioned before, but serving is a key part of this game. You have to serve well. Players are just going to be too powerful, too accurate. You've got to keep them a little bit off balance with the serve.
And it's just got to be mentally daunting to be up against Broderick and Palmer and think, what do you have to do to win a point here?
It's great.
Hope Drew misses a volley.
40-30.
Because their play down the middle, Drew went over. He knew it was coming. He's seen 1,472 of those in this match. And just made the move to get that ball down low.
Well, I like that keeping the ball down the middle. If there is a drive, and if Drew does take his two-handed backhand and put it through, it's right off the middle screen. It's coming straight back. It gives either Araya or Regan a good chance at another offensive shot off the drive.
And that was just an incredible play Palmer made, manipulating his paddle face when that ball kind of spun around and he just moved his grip. Kept a really loose grip on that low ball and was able to come up with another remarkable shot. Kind of hung that up too high.
Soft down the middle.
Yes, Scott, we've seen that.
Nothing about that shot that Palmer didn't like.
Exactly. He's actually had a few of those this match, maybe You know, Araya Regan give him one that's just a little bit too much in his wheelhouse, and he's able to get down on that.
That's what we're talking about. You just move the ball over 1 or 2 boards, and all of a sudden, the guy's got offense.
Advantage Araya.
Really
talent.
important game point here to try to close out. Sorry, Scott.
No, I was going to say it's really difficult for good players to do as little as they really need to do with the ball. That's a good example right there. Just push that ball. It's just got to be easy.
I mean, it doesn't need to be spectacular at all times.
No, you try to be spectacular, it's where you get into trouble. That's a good.
And again, it's just all of a sudden it's a lack of mojo. Physically, mentally, shot selection kind of becoming a little shaky here. And, you know, Palmer's just waiting over there for that big forehand.
He's got quite a wingspan. He's going to step up and hit it.
Araya.
They should play a tough point here.
Wow.
Okay.
Game, Araya Regan. 3 games all. Second set.
Drew got caught in there. He was hoping. He yelled, help.
He yelled help.
And Palmer had a work stoppage. He wasn't going back for that ball.
Scott, that really feels like a huge hold here to get them back in it at 3-3, maybe stem the tide a little bit of the momentum.
Love.
Absolutely.
Big time serve by Palmer there, and took her all the way over to the side screen on the other side. First player we saw do that was Brian Uline out of Chicago. He used to hit a ball that would go off 2 screens.
Love.
Critical right now.
Yeah, they don't want to give away the point, but I'm going to say Jared's going to give him a big serve.
30 love, 3 all. This is significant. Wow, great pickup by Regan.
That's 2.
Look how patient Drew was in the corner on that softball.
And he still makes it. You got to think about this now. Forehands are down the middle.
Great dig.
That was great. Regan anticipated that shot, put pace on it, and Palmer was unable to make that return volley.
Wow. Just a huge forehand from Regan there. And the
40-15.
And the lob error.
Just noticed something else. Scott Rosenbaum, our umpire, I think has pulled up his pants so that we can see his socks, which I think are made by the same company as Broderick's.
40-30.
Back to being serious. This is a huge point.
Certainly is.
This is a must-have break. I feel like Broderick and Palmer hold here, which they just Broderick and Palmer hold here, which they just did.
Game, Broderick and Palmer. They lead 4-3. Second set.
And that was the first that we saw Dan Regan start to struggle a little bit in that corner. He didn't get all the way over there. A little bit of a short overhead, or short lob, excuse me. And then, you know, he grimaced at the end of that game. Maybe fatigue setting in a little bit. I mean, that 3-setter they had in the semis, not a cool day. And, can't discount the fact that the guy's in a long-sleeve shirt either. He's not helping himself out.
And I think, prior to tournaments and as players work their way into the season, they might play themselves into shape where clearly Broderick and Palmer, there's no issue with their fitness level here. And I don't think you compete against them unless you're prepared to play 3 sets to tiebreaker in the 3rd set. If you can't do that physically, you're not going to be able to dial up the mental capacity to be competitive toward the end of these matches.
Well, and Patty, as we've alluded to many times now, Broderick and Palmer might have been on the court before their semifinal match as long as Araya and Reagan were on the court in their semi. So just overall fatigue, 2-day tournament, really highly competitive level of play here. Maybe starting to set in a little bit in the second set.
But I think that's the big change in the game, where all these players work really hard in the off season, so they really have that fitness. They've got to make it a commitment, just as much their on-court practice. It's got to be in the gym, off-court training.
Absolutely.
We've got Dan Regan serving here. Down 3-4, second set. Broderick Palmer won the first set 7-5.
Love 15.
We are at beautiful Canoe Country Club in Summit, New Jersey. We are on Paddle Tennis Television on Facebook.
All.
That was great. Araya and Regan recognized they had Palmer and Broderick switched in the corners, and they kept the ball to a different position and won that point.
$15-30.
Short lob. Palmer let that ball drop, kind of went deep right at the guy's feet.
Powerful overhead. Mick
Tough
needed
ball to get out of the way of.
Yeah. He'd have his dancing shoes on for that one.
Good reason to lob high. I like it. Slow it down. Not too much. Wait for the proper time.
And
15-40.
And that's the greatness of Broderick right there. He came in on a short ball, found that seam. When you have a lefty, you go off their left hip, or righty off their right hip. It's where you can produce some errors occasionally. Super smart shot in that moment.
Yeah, and Patty, that was the second missed volley for Regan in this game. He hasn't missed a ton of those so far. Been really steady at net.
And I think Broderick caused that error. He placed it there, so I'm gonna
Give
cut
him
Regan a
credit.
break there.
Give him credit.
Game, Broderick and Palmer. They lead 5-3.
Okay, we have a last stand here.
And Scott, was Mick maybe pressing there a little bit, trying to get back in, create a little momentum? Maybe ill-advised, considering it went out, but...
I think he had the shot. I think he failed to execute.
I agree. I think, it's hot. That ball just carried a little long.
Loved the play, and loved how Palmer just got out of the way, even in a heated exchange.
15 love.
He had the discipline to just let the ball go through. So many times you see players continue the point and playing out balls. These guys never play out balls.
That's a great point. And when it's 75 degrees, more often than not, you can turn around and play it off the back wire, which we've seen a lot today as well.
I think a lot of club players play reactive on their volleys, and anything they can reach, they're willing to try to put in play. But they play so many out balls where highest level, very few out balls are played off of drives.
And this point's gone on quite a bit, but I want to go back to the first return of serve. Great shot.
30 love.
This is where Palmer is helping Broderick out by moving to the middle of court, cutting off the return. I'd like to see Reagan go down the line a few more times.
That's a great point, Scott. If you see the guy at the net moving, sometimes it's great. Just go right back up the line. Keep the guy honest. Was that ball good?
40 love.
So
Triple match point.
triple
Patty.
match point.
Huge volley by Drew Broderick there.
And
there it is.
Makes sense.
Game, set, match. Broderick and Palmer, 7-5, 6-3.
So, Scott, it's not a surprise. Our tournament number 1 seeds, our country's number 1 team, came through again. The 7th tournament they've played together. They've won here, so they've got 7 tournament wins in a row. And I think that I think once again they've proved that they're the head of the class here. And they provide such entertainment here for all of the local paddle fans who came out to watch this event over the course of a weekend and throughout our paddle tennis, our platform tennis marathon here. I think that, Scott, I think you and Whit did a great job. You know, first time in the announcing booth, helping out all over the course of the weekend. I hope you guys enjoyed doing that. And, I mean, that was spectacular play. Scott, what are your thoughts?
My pleasure. It was really enjoyable to do it and to watch the play. And I do think that for everyone watching and the fans that were here, they saw, some really high-level platform tennis being played. I mean, you can't discount the fact that these athletes just come up with fantastic shots, make great execution at times. But then as we talk while the match is going on, there is a lot of focus on strategy. And we cannot cut Broderick and Palmer short on any of their strategy. I think they're one of the top teams, probably the top team, to be able to pick what they need to do, make changes if they need to, and execute that strategy.
Yeah, and a quick thank you to Marco Grangiero for hopping on with us in the first set, and John Lubau and Jeff Morneau in the semifinals. Was a lot of fun to do this, guys, and thanks so much.
You guys did a great job. We're going to be right back. Hopefully we can get an interview with our 2016 Atlantic Classic champions. We'll be right back. Hey, Whit, we're here with one of our Atlantic Classic champions. We're here with Drew Broderick and his son Vince. Take it away, Whit.
Drew, congratulations on winning the 2016 Atlantic Classic. You guys held tough, held steady. What were you looking to do there in the second set? Really just one break, and then you it seemed like it happened pretty quickly at the end there.
Yeah, I don't know. It was a tough match. It's hard to look back on all those points already because it felt so long. But they're a great team, and we know they're really happy to be in the finals, and they were not going to go down without a fight. They actually played us 2 tough matches last year. So they knew they could hang with us. They knew they could beat us in sets, which they took a set off of us in Philly last year. So it was a great match, a lot of shot making. I think the crowd got to see some good paddle. And at the end, we got back to our game plan, and we didn't press too much. So it was fun.
Yeah, it was a great match to watch, and I'm sure everyone here at Canoe Country Club really enjoyed it. You guys alluded to your strategy a little bit. You were Mick and Dan had a great run to the tournament, huge win in the semis, and this could easily be their breakthrough tournament. Beginning of the week, you were talking about you were worried about a team that got hot, and that was kind of a team that kind of came out of nowhere. Mick and Dan unseeded. What were you trying to avoid against them? What were you trying to take away from their weapons?
Well, to start, the 2 teams that I was worried about was Juan and Jeff. We played them in the semis, and then Mick and Dan, which we knew they'd give us a tough fight. They're just a great team. Mick's forehand is huge. Dan's got great hands at the net. And, we recognize if we go down by 2 games in either of those sets, they feel like those sets are won by them. So they're a great front-running team, so we managed to kind of fight them off from getting that lead. And, we played well. We came up with some big shots, a few careless errors, but it's still October, a lot of season left.
Yeah, well, that was a lot of fun to watch, and we don't want to take you away from Vincent here or any celebrations. So congratulations, Drew, and we're signing off from the 2016 Atlantic Classic.
And Whit, I'd like to add one more thing, Drew. I'd like you to have this opportunity to thank the amazing membership you have here at Canoe Brook and the support they gave you for this event.
Yeah, absolutely. From all the department heads and the members and my staff here with Rackets, they did such a great job, not just today, but for the past couple weeks we've been planning this. As you all know, it takes a lot to go into these events, and I think Mother Nature rewarded us for this one because it was supposed to rain today, and it was perfect paddle conditions. So thanks again.
Well, we look forward to seeing the next stop on the APTA Tour out in Chicago for the charities next weekend, and we'd like to thank the guys here on Paddle Tennis Television on Facebook. Great to have another team on board showing the game and showcasing the great talent we have in the sport. Thanks so much, and congratulations, Drew.
Thank you. Thanks, Whit.
Congrats, Drew.